There's one powerful strategy that feminist activists rely on more than any other. That's the victim complex. It's not just a narrative or a paradigm. It's really a hybrid of both. It's part theory, part emotion, and part blind ignorance. But it's also very simple and easy to spot. And it's an entity unto itself. This is the heart and soul of what is destructive and divisive about feminism. And we need to neutralize it somehow. I see it as a two-stage process. Stage 1, claim victimhood. Claim that a female has been harmed or exploited or humiliated in some way. Stage 2, demonize dissent. Dismiss all claims to the contrary as being part of the same problem. With this victim complex, feminists are able to bypass our rational faculties. This means that common sense and evidence are kept out of the discourse. The question is, how to best interject some reality back into the discussion. Here's an example of the victim complex at work. Let's say that a man and a woman have a fun, romantic night out. They drink together and they have sex. That's a very boring, normal-sounding situation. There's nothing for busybodies to do with that. So let's make it more fun with a victim narrative. Let's ignore everything else about the story and just focus on how the female might have been exploited. Let's claim that she was a victim of rape. She was intoxicated after all, and therefore, she couldn't consent to sex. But she also had sex with a man. Therefore, she is a rape victim. Okay, now I'm satisfied, and I can be 100% sure that she's a rape victim. And obviously, only an idiot would doubt this. So now it's time to deal with all the objections that come from those stubborn misogynists and rape supporters. You know, the people who use common sense and have the capacity to ask reasonable questions. Objection number 1. Well, what about the man? Wasn't he just as intoxicated? Objection dismissed. That is so wrong. Rape is still rape, whether the rapist is intoxicated or not. It makes no difference how intoxicated the rapist is. We still need to hold the rapist accountable. Drinking doesn't give someone a license to rape. There's no excuse for raping someone, and on and on and on. Objection number 2. But didn't she freely choose to drink? Objection dismissed. Just because she decided to drink doesn't mean that she deserved to be raped. Drinking is not to be confused with asking to be raped. How ridiculous. That's victim blaming. It's part of rape culture, and on and on and on. Objection number 3. But didn't she have a good time? Objection dismissed. That's how a rapist thinks. Rapists think that women enjoy being raped. It's a common myth that women enjoy being raped. Gee, it's amazing how many people will try to excuse rapists. So many people try to blame victims. Lots of people promote rape. Why does everybody disagree with me? What's wrong with the culture? What you see here is the systematic dismissal of opposing views, and it's something known more generally as inoculation. And as a secondary effect, it's also creating a straw man out of the opposition. It works in much the same way as the inoculation that protects your immune system from dangerous viruses. They, feminists, preemptively introduce their flock to the most common objections to their own ridiculous ideas. But they twist and misrepresent these objections so that their indoctrinated flock will be better prepared to reject and dismiss them without any hesitation. Part of the reason that these objections are so easily dismissed is because their mind has already been made up. They have already decided that a woman has been victimized, and that's the assumption that needs to be explicitly challenged. These weakened counterarguments are then viewed as part of the rape culture. Rape culture is the label assigned to this inoculation dosage. They are literally trained to recognize and dismiss common objections as belonging to rape culture. Having said all that, it is true that human nature includes the capacity for extreme brutality. Rape and mayhem and murder can become normal in a lawless environment. Civilization is a fragile thing. But what happens in a state of total anarchy, as in a societal collapse, or a war zone, or a riot, or a prison, is not really what these slut-walking third-wave feminists generally mean by rape culture. They consider rape culture to be the result of objectification and victim-blaming, slut-shaming, and rape jokes. Judging by their actions, feminists think that rape culture is exemplified by the following statement by Constable Michael Sanguinetti. "You know, I think we're beating around the bush here. I've been told I'm not supposed to say this. However, women should avoid dressing like sluts in order not to be victimized." The subtext of Constable Sanguinetti's statement is highly ambiguous. It could either be interpreted as victim-blaming or as sincere advice. It could be interpreted as slut-shaming or just advice. You have to read into this statement in order to find the victim-blaming or the slut-shaming, though. It's not really there, but one part of this statement makes his intentions 100% clear. The middle part. "I've been told I'm not supposed to say this. However," and then he goes on to say it. You see, Constable Sanguinetti had been warned, and he was disobedient. That's why I think the feminists decided to pick on him. You just don't defy feminists and get away with it. You will obey, or else. That's what the slut walks were all about, forcing compliance to the official feminist narrative. Michael Sanguinetti's candid comment represents an act of defiance. The victim complex is what allows mutual flirting to be presented as sexual harassment, mutual fighting as domestic abuse, and consensual sex as rape. And it is totally unnecessary when it comes to recognizing real victims. In fact, it trivializes victimhood, and it doesn't help real victims. So how can we counter this? This is something that is worth thinking about. I don't have the answer, but there are two approaches that seem obvious to me. Trying to put the shoe on the other foot is one way. So if we've already been presented with a female-centered victim narrative, we can respond by focusing on how the male might have been victimized in that situation, and just apply the same strategy to show that there's another side. Another would be to quickly and accurately identify and expose the hidden assumptions and biases that the victim complex depends on, and insist on things like gender-neutral language and avoiding labels like rapist, harasser, abuser, or victim. I don't know what the best approach is, but I know that if we are successful at neutralizing the feminist victim complex, then victory is ours.